Chapter 10, Part 2, page 137. Growing by the rules. Now, all sorts of foods with labels like natural and organic began to show up in supermarkets. Those words had become great marketing tools. But what exactly did they mean? In 1990, Congress passed a law telling the Department of Agriculture, the USDA, to decide on some rules for organic food. What followed was a great debate to determine the future of the organic industry. On one side of the fight were the agribusiness corporations, which had just jumped onto the organic food bandwagon. They fought to define organic as loosely as possible. For example, they wanted the right to call genetically modified food, GMO, organic. They also wanted to be able to fertilize their organic fields with sewage sludge. At first, the USDA went along. In 1997, it proposed a very loose set of rules that gave agribusiness everything it wanted. In response, there was a huge outcry from small organic farmers and the public. A flood of protest forced the USDA back to the drawing board. One big question was whether there could be such a thing as organic processed food. Gene Kahn sat on the board that set the new standards. He argued that the rules for organics had to allow synthetic additives and preservatives. Without synthetics, processed foods like TV dinners just can't be manufactured. Many people from the old organic movement argued that to put synthetics in a processed food and then call it organic was a fraud. They said there could be no such thing as a truly organic Twinkie or TV dinner. In the end, Kahn's side won out. That's why there are now organic processed foods, although still no organic Twinkie. These new rules cleared the way for a huge growth in the organic food market. If we had lost on synthetics, Gene Kahn told me, we'd be out of business. Down on the industrial organic farm, page 139. I guess I missed the old Cascadian, the one on the package. Or at least I missed the idea of it. This just didn't fit my picture of what an organic farm should look like. Get over it, Gene Kahn told me. Just because a farm is big doesn't mean it isn't organic. The important thing, he would argue, is that behind every organic TV dinner or chicken stands acres of land that will no longer be doused with chemicals. I could see his point. This is clearly a great thing for the environment and the public health. So I decided to go see some industrial organic farms for myself. Kahn sent me to visit a large organic farm operation called Greenways in California's Central Valley. That's where they grow vegetables for Cascadian Farms frozen dinners. Greenways Organic is really 2,000 acres of organic farmland tucked into a 24,000-acre conventional farm. That gave me a chance to compare the two types of farming side by side. Even up close, it's almost impossible to tell them apart. The crops, the machines, the crews, and the fields look the same. The big difference is one you can't see. For every chemical that is put on the conventional fields, Greenways finds a substitute for the organic fields. In place of the petrochemical fertilizers, Greenways organic acres are fed with compost from a nearby horse farm and by poultry manure. Instead of toxic pesticides, crops are sprayed with natural substances like BT, a pesticide made from a common soil bacteria. Organic weeding, page 140. Organic farming rules do not allow chemical weed killers, so Greenways has to use other methods to fight weeds. Even before the crops are planted, the fields are watered to get any weed seeds to grow. A tractor then plows the field to kill them. This is repeated several times. Later, when the crops are high, farm workers use propane torches to burn the weeds by hand. The result of all this hard work is fields that look just as clean as if chemical weed killers had been used. No chemicals means no toxic runoff into rivers and oceans, but it turns out that plowing the land over and over damages the soil almost as much as chemical weed killers do. It kills off the nitrogen-fixing bacteria that make the soil fertile. It releases a lot of nitrogen into the air. Because of this damage, industrial organic farmers have to add a lot of nitrogen fertilizer to their fields. Where do they get it? From compost, manures, or fish meal. Most of the organic food sold in America comes from farms like Greenways. Supermarket chains like Whole Foods or Walmart are not set up to do business with dozens of small family-owned farms. It takes too much time and money to coordinate. It makes much more sense for them to buy from large suppliers like Cascadian. And for the same reason, it's much easier for Cascadian to buy its produce from large farms like Greenways. The graph on the bottom of page 141 is titled The Growing Organic Market. On the left side is the growth of certified organic farmland acreage. On the right side is the growth of certified organic broiler chickens from the years 1982 to 2005. Page 142. To meet the demands of their customers, Greenways has to farm on an industrial scale. It must plant 1 or 2 crop varieties that ripen at the same time. It must plant foods that could survive shipment across the country. It must buy fertilizer from someone else instead of getting it from animals on the farm. Again, Gene Kahn and many other people think this is just fine. After all, because of companies like his, thousands of acres of American farmland are now chemical-free. Organic food can now be found in most supermarkets. Surely that is a very good thing. Let us sell you lettuce. Page 142. I learned more about the industrial organic system when I visited Earthbound Farm. Earthbound grows 80% of the organic lettuce sold in America. You may have seen some of it in plastic boxes in your supermarket. You could argue that Earthbound represents industrial organic farming at its best. The company was started in the 1980s by Drew and Myra Goodman, 2 farmers who started with exactly no farming experience. They are childhood friends from New York City who started dating when they both went to college in California. During a break before going to grad school, they started a roadside organic farm on a few rented acres, growing raspberries and baby salad greens. Every Sunday, Myra would wash and bag a bunch of lettuce for their own use, a salad for each night of the week. They discovered that the whole leaf lettuces stayed fresh right through to dinner the following Saturday. So began the pre-washed salad business in America. Before the Goodmans, salad for most Americans meant iceberg lettuce. They introduced dozens of different salad mixes to mainstream America. Along the way, they changed the way lettuces were grown, harvested, cleaned, and packed. And today, Earthbound is a company that takes in $400 million a year. I met Myra Goodman, now a tanned, talkative 42-year-old, over lunch at the company's roadside stand in the Carmel Valley. Unlike Cascadian Farm, Earthbound still grows its own produce. Most of its farmland is an hour northeast of Carmel in the Salinas Valley. That fertile valley is cooled by sea breezes, making it an ideal spot for growing lettuces 9 months of the year. In winter, the company picks up and moves its operation and many of its employees south to Yuma, Arizona. Myra explained that Earthbound's farm's growth exploded in 1993. That's when the Costco chain placed an order. Costco was moving 2,000 cases a week to start, Myra said, and the order kept increasing. Other chains like Walmart, Lucky, and Albertsons soon followed. The Goodmans realized their days of washing lettuce in the living room were over. We didn't know how to farm on that scale, Drew told me, and we needed a lot more land, fast. So the Goodmans entered into partnerships with growers who knew how to grow, harvest, pack, and distribute large quantities of produce. As part of the deal, the growers had to agree to change to organic farming methods. If you include all the farmland growing fruits and vegetables for Earthbound, it comes to a total of 25,000 organic acres. The Goodmans estimate that this has eliminated some 270,000 pounds of pesticide and 8 million pounds of petrochemical fertilizer that would otherwise have been applied to those fields. The Salad Factory, page 144. The Earthbound farmland looks like a giant patchwork of color: dark green, burgundy, pale green, blue-green. Each color block is a different type of lettuce. The lettuce is grown in raised beds. Each bed is 80 inches wide and smooth and flat as a tabletop. Workers use a laser to make sure they are perfectly level. That's so the custom-built harvester can snip each leaf at precisely the same point. To control pests, 1 out of every 7 beds is planted with flowers. The flowers attract lacewings and a type of fly that eats the lettuce-eating bugs. Pesticides, even the ones allowed by the USDA organic rules, are seldom sprayed. The leaves are harvested with a machine that Earthbound designed. It moves down the rows, cutting the baby greens at the same point just above the crown. Spidery arms gently rake through the beds in advance of the blade, scaring off any mice that might find their way into the salad. The leaves are blown into plastic trays, and the trays are loaded by hand into refrigerator trucks. From that point, they will be refrigerated until they reach your supermarket. Once filled, the trucks deliver their cargo of leaves to a processing plant. There, the leaves are sorted, mixed, washed, dried, and packaged. The whole plant is kept at 36 degrees. Because of the refrigeration, the employees, most of them Mexicans, are dressed in full-length down coats. The plant washes and packs 2.5 million pounds of lettuce a week. That's a truly amazing amount of lettuce. It also represents a truly amazing amount of energy. Think of the electricity bill to refrigerate a 200,000 square foot plant. Think of the diesel fuel needed to truck all that salad to supermarkets across the country, or to manufacture the plastic containers it's packed in. A 1-pound box of pre-washed lettuce contains 80 calories of food energy. Growing, chilling, washing, packaging, and transporting that box of organic salad to a plate on the East Coast takes more than 4,600 calories of fossil fuel energy, or 57 calories of fossil fuel energy for every calorie of food. What could be more healthy than eating a salad? It's basically a bunch of leaves eaten raw. An organic salad has to be even better, right? Still, the idea of packing lettuce in plastic boxes and shipping it 5 days and 3,000 miles away didn't feel very organic to me. Like Gene Kahn, Drew and Myra Goodman make no apologies for the way they do business. Their company has done a world of good for its land, its workers, the growers it works with, and its customers. But is this kind of organic the best we can do? Before I could make up my mind, I had to visit one more industrial organic farm. I was on my way to meet Rosie, the organic chicken.